Hey pickleballers, and welcome to another episode of the PickleBros podcast. As always, thank you for your likes, comments, subscriptions, and use code PickleBros at checkout with Carbon for 10% off. Tim is back. He's back in the house. He missed the last episode. Last week was weird. We filmed on the day we don't normally do, but we're back in full swing here to talk about something that we talk about all the time and haven't quite unlocked all the secrets to. But we're going to explore it with you guys today, and that is speed ups. Speed ups at the net, particularly, is what we're going to talk about, because anyone can bang from the baseline. In fact, that's where most people get their start. But at the kitchen line, that's the big secret. But first, we're going through a very, very special topic: the revenge of the lob. Jesse.
Oh, you guys didn't do this last week without me?
No, we're waiting for you, baby.
Cue the video, and Tim watched closely.
Stupid.
Tim tried to dodge it.
All right, here we go.
I have to pick up some fantasy players over here, so
hold
I'm
on.
just gonna dip out for a second.
Okay, perfect. Because what the viewing audience may remember is Tim had this controversial lob the week prior that was really Ian's responsibility, and then it fell, and all of a sudden he thought he lobbed the unlobbable in me, which we've actually determined through judge and jury that was not the case. So I'm off the hook. However, it was not off the hook in my brain. So we got on the court, and I got to play some mixed doubles with Tim, and I got some revenge. Roll the tape. Yeah, suck it, Tim. Look at that. Right in the head. Oh.
And you kick with your
Throw
time.
paddle. Hit the wall. It was a perfectly, for those who cannot see and maybe listening in, it was a perfectly executed nasty Nelson where I disguised my drop serve and proceeded to drill him right in the hip, where he then fell on his back and looked like a tipped over crab, throwing all of his legs and arms in the air. And point, good guys. Thank you very much.
Tim, defend yourself.
So I was embellishing there because I didn't want to hurt Stolp's feelings. I knew that he was wounded from the week before with the lob, so I wanted to give him his due, whatever enthusiasm in that moment. But I think it's interesting that you consider that you didn't get lobbed. It wasn't legitimate because it was Ian's fault, and yet you considered that revenge
Was necessary.
on me. That to me is pretty telling. That tells me that you don't really believe that crap that you're spewing about it being Ian's fault. You know that I got you, and you had to get me back.
Nope.
Otherwise, that nasty should have been directed towards Ian, if you're being honest.
I was
Truth teller.
Dude, I was protecting my partner Ian. I was revenging the fact that you lobbed him. So I was actually protecting my partner. It's called being a good
Then
partner.
why did I feel no sense of justification? Only
You don't have to,
vindication
bud.
for you.
It's principalities. It's in my heart. I'm Robin Hood. I'm like Robin Hood. I do what's good for the people.
Oh, it's so funny. But another thing that made that day pretty special was we had some fans of the show come from out of state just to play with us, which made us feel way more important than we definitely are. But I want to kind of recap that. And we were going to do it last week, but Tim was out, but we wanted to kind of save our thoughts of what it was like playing with some fans. So Tim, tell me, how did you take that play session?
It was great. So our new buddies, well, one of them was an old buddy, Craig, my brother-in-law, and my sister came down too. But all this was initiated by our new buddy, Gabe, who is a fan of the Bros, and he wanted to play with the Bros. So he plays with my sister and my brother-in-law out there, and he was telling them how much he wanted to come and see us and play with us. He's a big fan. Hey, we love you, Gabe. We still love you. And so we worked out some time for them to come down. Happened to be in the middle of a move that I'm doing for the past 2 weeks, so it's craziness, but it was still awesome to have them there. And we orchestrated a couple of mornings of really, let's see, the first morning was 12 guys, which is great. and we played some King of the Court, where we started off with two of the bros versus Gabe and Craig, and then wherever it went from there, it went. Then the next day was 16 people, so we had all 4 courts over at Lifetime filled, and it was some more King of the Court. And it was really interesting because, man, we talk about how in Colorado Springs you're on hard mode, right, with the altitude, and they certainly got a taste of that. Their balls were flying like 20 feet out. So, and that was very noticeable. It's like, yep, this probably doesn't happen back in California for these guys. But it was super enjoyable. Gabe has such an interesting style, and it took a while to get used to. Lots of spin, lots of angles, but really a fun play style. I really enjoyed playing against him, and I guess I never played with him. I played with Craig against him and somebody else, and then I played with my sister against Craig and Gabe. So we were able to dedicate some time with those guys on the court when King of the Court wasn't happening. So that was great. And then we got to go out and have some lunch with those guys, and just a great time. I was so honored that they wanted to make the trip, and so happy we were able to make that happen. And anybody else listening out there, hey, we're in Colorado Springs, so hit us up.
Stolp, what did you think? I got some of my own thoughts, but I want to hear you first.
You know, characters. All of us are characters, and then all of the people that came are their own characters, and it's just fun to get mixed into, you know, feels like a TV episode where they run their own show, we run our own show in life, and then we merge together, and it feels like this collaboration episode where we have all these pickleball characters on the same court. Your boy Gabe is one of those characters. He jumped right in, not only with the pickleball play, but the pickleball trash talk. This guy was getting in front of me and talking so much smack, and I loved every second of it. That guy came ready, like he did his homework, and he was chirping from the get-go. So that was a ton of fun. Whereas Craig was a little bit quieter, more reserved, and kind of similar in his play style, but he had some skill sets and weapons. Where Gabe, he was going to chirp at you, he was going to try and nasty Nelson you, and he was going to come at you with some power. So it was a ton of fun. I think the cool thing, even in that video that you showed, where Tim so embarrassingly got nasty Nelson by a perfect executed serve, was Tim got to play with his sister Nicole, who's been a guest on this show. Gabe's sister also came out as well, so it was like this. It was a family affair. It was really cool to get them mixed into some mixed play. They played some women's doubles as well, and I hope they had a really pleasant experience, because we sure did have a pleasant experience hosting them. And they are a great cast of characters. So if you're ever in Central California, go check them out too.
Yeah, and the reason I'm not asking Jesse his thoughts is he was resting his foot in the healing waters of the hot springs up in the mountains. So he missed the play session. But yeah, Gabe was so much fun to play with. Like, energy, talker, definitely has an unorthodox style and personality. Not like your typical pickleballer, but I thrived on that. I loved playing next to him. I wish he and I had done better. He struggled a lot with the altitude and the dryness, just hitting a lot of balls long. He struggled dropping and dinking, and every time he'd be like, "Ian, I'm sorry, I'm trying." I'm just like, "You're good, man." Like, but he was just like that player who fills you with energy, ton of fun, and like you said, Stolp, he was in the trash talk. He like came up with a list. He's like, "All right, Stolp, your lob take is terrible. The nasty Nelson thing is like," he went.
He called me a giraffe. I don't even think he called me by my name. It's just a giraffe.
He started with giraffe. Like he had this whole list. He just rambled off to us. This dude took it seriously. So thank you, Gabe. We were so honored to play with you. We can't wait to do it again. And it was an absolute blast. But the one thing I did appreciate from them is they confirmed for me, because I've never played pickleball out of Colorado, is we are on hard mode here with the height of the ball, the drier climate, the altitude, everything. And so having people come from California sea level and then not being able to make that adjustment, and they were just like, oh my gosh, why are all the balls just flying out? So,
Oh, dude, Ian, I cannot wait for you to play at like Florida level where there's humidity and sea level.
Thanksgiving, I'm going there for 9 days.
It feels like hitting in an atmosphere of mashed potatoes. Like the ball does not travel fast. It's gonna be a whole different world.
I'm gonna head out to Tampa around Thanksgiving, a couple days before, a couple days after. But I need to, like, if anyone in Florida, like I don't even know where Tampa is, but I want to get connected with some pretty decent groups out there and test myself at sea level. I'm like really excited for that opportunity. So I need to start getting on that and reaching out. Awesome, guys. Great recap there. But now it's time for What's Your Beef? Jesse, what is your beef, my friend?
Okay, so I have a tiny little beef this week.
Oh no!
But I hope you won't hold that against me. So there was an article that came out in the New York Post. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Pickleball is wreaking havoc across the United States, and it's only going to get worse. By Tammy Yang. It's published 2 days ago. And according to Ms. Yang, pickleball has made for ugly turf wars, furious noise complaints, violence, lawsuits, and even potential criminal charges. And I would have to say that this is excellent journalism because we experience this on a daily basis at the Bros. You remember that time when Tim and Jeff Ma, they said they were going to play me and Ian for duper matches and rec play, and then after 2 games, Tim was like, yeah, I don't want to play a 3rd game for duper. You remember that? Do you remember the words that were exchanged? Havoc.
Yes.
Absolute havoc. And then do you remember when, that lob incident and all of the vituperative arguments that occurred after that? So, it gets ugly, and it's only going to get worse.
Violence, I say.
But if you're still not convinced, I'm going to just scroll back 1 page here. And you look at this image that the New York Post ran with the headline. And you can see it's bad. So some of you probably are just listening and you can't even see this image. But let me tell you, it is terrifying. There's a guy hitting a ball, and it's creating holes, like literal holes, in the map of the United States. So Minnesota has been wiped out.
It's my hometown.
Virginia, pretty much gone. West Texas, obliterated. And the worst of all is right here in Colorado, you've got this like fireball burning just eviscerating the Rocky Mountain area all the way up into Idaho and Utah. And it's just devastating. And this shows it really is wreaking havoc, and it is getting worse. And the only beef I have, which is a small beef because this is excellent, very accurate journalism, is that the paddle being used appears to be like a paddle. So I wish they would just change that into a pickleball paddle. But
should use a carbon paddle.
Yeah, they should use a carbon paddle, absolutely. But other than that very small point, that is really path-breaking. They deserve a Pulitzer for that. It's just fantastic.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Violence and vituperative. All sorts of V words.
We're part of the problem, guys. We are destroying America, just so you know. Lay blame where it should fall. Tim, what's your beef?
Yeah, so my beef actually is a continuation from Stolp's beef from a couple of weeks ago. Remember, he was talking about shoes, and he was making fun of Skechers at Costco and all that stuff. Well, I have a part 2 of that. So when I get my shoes, I usually get 2 pair at a time, and then I alternate to conserve them and have them last as long as they possibly can, right? Well, I get my Asics, and this time I got some pickleball shoes from Asics along with some tennis shoes from Asics. Okay, so this is good. Like, let's see how good these pickleball shoes are, right? Well, I have some evidence here. I have 2 right shoes. I knew this was gonna happen.
Put it in front of your chest. Put it in front of your chest, man.
You guys see that?
I see that.
see it.
Yeah,
Oh,
big
geez,
time.
dude.
Okay, that's one right shoe. Sorry, you can see it for a second there. Here's the other right shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Little fade.
Okay, yeah. So Which one of those would you say is the pickleball shoe?
Probably the one with that gray hole in it. Really?
The one with the hole in it is the pickleball shoe.
Wow.
So it really doesn't matter if they're going to make these pickleball shoes and you're not going to be able to. I don't play with that one any more than I play with the blue one. So the tennis shoe is completely outperforming the pickleball shoe. So part 2 of Stolp's beef, make some better pickleball shoes. Jeez.
And they know where the pressure points. Everyone loses tread at the toe and like the upper part of the toe box area. Like, why can we not reinforce that?
I have a question about your beef. So I've heard this idea that alternating the shoe preserves it. Like if you rather than get one pair of shoes, wear it for 2 months, then get another pair of shoes and wear it for 2 months, you get 2 pairs of shoes, alternate them, and they last 4 months or longer than 4 months. But I think that maybe is a myth, because like, how would that make the shoe last longer, the fact that you're going every other day?
Because you're not playing on that shoe as often because you're alternating.
But actually, I'm with Jesse, and I understand why people do this, and I've done it. But what I do is it makes me not have to buy shoes every 2 months. I just hit the purchase button every 4 to 5 months. But the same amount of wear and tear should remain the constant.
Like, you have a fixed number of games that you're going to be able to play before your shoe wears down. It doesn't matter if you... Do you see what I'm saying, Tim?
Unless it compounds,
so
Jesse.
I proved this theory last time when I got 2 pair of tennis shoes. Those 2 pair of shoes lasted for like 8 months.
I guess it could compound. See, if like, let's say you play on Monday and then Tuesday, and like, I don't know if it absorbs heat or if there's any compounding effect, over and over again, instead of like giving your shoe a break. I don't think so, but that would...
Like, your shoes need recovery time? Like, can we get a materials scientist listener to please weigh in on this? Because I think this is like urban legend.
Okay, like, it sounded...
Jesse, you're the only one that has a brain in your skull. You guys are idiots. Like, you freaking buy 1 pair of shoe and it lasts you 2 months. You buy 2 pairs of shoes, it lasts you 4 months. Great math. Like, it just then you buy 2 more. It's like, it's not a freaking math equation. It does not recover. Ian and Tim, the integrity of your brain cells have been questioned. I don't know.
Dude, you're reducing the wear and tear on 1 pair of shoes if you're not wearing them as much.
Oh, dear
I don't understand. What am I missing here? We
Well,
don't need
you're
anyone to
just
come in
my-
here.
just one
We don't
shoe
need any
lasts
experts to
100
come in
games.
here.
Tim, are you going for the worst take of the year award? Are you trying to take that from
No, I just
Stolp?
literally made the best take of the year, and you guys are just like, you're all jealous.
Well, Tim, no.
You guys
let's
should all
say
be
one
getting 2
shoe-
pair of tennis shoes at a time.
1 shoe can handle 100 play sessions. Who cares how, like, you can space those 100 play sessions out over 2 months or 4 months, right? They're still going to...
But are you buying shoes as regularly when you buy 2 pair at a time? No, you're
I'm
saving
buying
yourself
them
a
at
whole
the
bunch of
same
headaches.
year-to-date cadence. Right.
Okay, hold on. No, we're not done, because Tim has had 2 takes.
This was not the point of my
two
beat.
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. This guy last week said, "What's the point of working out? I'm already the best. Like, I don't need to do it."
I didn't say that on the record. I don't know why you're bringing that up.
And then we said, no, we gave you some little disclaimers. Like, Tim didn't say this. This was our interpretation. But now he goes out and does some shoe math on us. 2 takes in 2 weeks that are horrible equals 1 really bad take.
I'm going to keep doing what works for me. You guys can do this. You guys can pick rocks.
Well,
All right, next beef.
the next beef is with Tim's brain. Okay?
Yeah.
Like no joke. And here's why.
Oh.
Yeah, this is Tim's brain. My beef is with Tim's brain. We've sort of, left nuggets here and there, but we're running a men's team event later in November, and we're actually doing the draft for picking teams this upcoming Sunday. We will be doing it live. It will also be posted on the channel. So for all you listeners who might be curious to see the shenanigans we get up to with several of our other friends, you can tune into that. This will be like a kind of cool special draft episode. But we have a bit of a planning committee. Tim and I are on it. There's 3 other guys. And as we were trying to come up with how we were going to do this thing, we had ideas here, we discussed things. We sort of said, here's how we're going to run it, and we move forward with that. I send out emails, and I'm kind of the guy, doing the brunt work of the group project because I'm pickleball obsessed, and it's completely fine. But as I'm moving forward with these things, Tim all of a sudden comes up with these really good ideas at like the 11th and 59th hour where he's like, Ian, have you considered doing it this way? I'm like, well, that's a great idea, but we can't pivot now. And then he's like, well, we should have done the captains this way. Well, the bracket should have been this way. Or we should have considered Duper this way. And like, and it's not just him, but I'm laying the blame on him because he just like definitely got all the momentum behind him. He comes up with great ideas that I can't implement and just like keep slamming them on me. He's like, what about this? What about this? It's like, where were you when we were planning this thing? So I'm a little annoyed with Tim that he didn't share with me his good ideas until after there's absolutely nothing I could do about it. So that's my beef this
Didn't
week.
we say we were going to minimize the personal beefs? Why are you guys all targeting?
I complimented you, but also beefed you. See, it was supposed to be neutral. I didn't know you were going to come with the bad shoe take. That wasn't planned.
Well, you know that I thrive in chaos on the pickleball court. So I introduce my good ideas when they come up. I'm not going to do it on your schedule. I'm not going to like check it out with your secretary to make sure you've got time for a good idea. Like I'm not going to book time. I'm just going to come up with the good ideas when I come up with them, and then we should be able to pivot on the spot. This thing hasn't started yet. Let's make the changes that need to be made.
Oh man, that's
Dude, well
great.
played, Tim. Way to defend yourself. I like that.
It wasn't
was
bad.
good.
Stolp, what's your beef? Bring us down to some rationality here.
This is so good. This is really, really good. I'm still trying to figure out shoe math and how that works out in my head, but can't quite figure that one out. All right, my beef is with what I like to call chatty Cathys. And this is what happens when two people who are talkers are partners on the same pickleball team. And you have them serving in a situation where the opponents are ready to receive your serve. And then the two chatty Cathys are sitting there talking about shoes, or, you know, when they're going to get their next pair of shoes, or about working out, or, you know, what you did the night before. They're chit-chatting when it's time to serve. And gosh, I had a front row seat to this yesterday, because I was the one doing the chatting. I was the one out there talking to my serving partner about shooting the breeze. And then we had our opponents, Monty, like, let's go. And I'm like, dude, that's my bad. And that's my beef.
Who are you talking to? Was it Bobby?
Maybe.
Yeah, it was Bobby. We knew it.
Maybe. So I'm just saying, I got a beef with chatty Cathys, and I'm the problem. It's me. So that's my beef.
I do gotta say, I like games moving at a pretty fast pace. And Jesse, I think you do this well, and there's a lot of guys who do it well, where they will slow the pace of the game down. Not to the point where it's obvious or you can really say anything about it, but they just, they retrieve the ball a little bit slower. They take a couple of breaths. They turn to their partner and be like, "You ready?" And they come back. It's just like, hit the ball. I've been primed and prepped in my stance for 11 seconds now, and then you get time to think. So it can be a strategy, but not in the way you're talking.
If Bobby is doing that stuff on purpose, by the way, like that very methodical time spent before serving, and he throws up these stupid lob serves to get in my head. It worked. He was my one loss yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I hope I don't see him in the tournament. I was mad. I was mad.
As usual, we can't do anything fast. That was super fun, super enjoyable. We're a mess, a disaster, chaotic mode here. It's time to get into the topic, guys, and that's speed ups. Tim, I did want to pass it off to you first. Just kind of brain dump on us. Give us your thoughts on speed ups right off the bat.
Speed ups. So I used to be known as Captain Speed Up. I think since then I've taken a demotion. I'm probably like Lieutenant Speed Up, because I don't speed up as much anymore, because I found out, and this occurred right around the time I went to the PPA and played the 5-0 there, where I didn't have to try speed ups to know that they weren't going to be effective in that environment. Like I could just feel it. Like, this is not going to work. So the main point is, there comes a point in your pickleball journey where, as you keep getting better and better, speed ups work less and less, unless they are timely um, and they make sense in the moment. Um, Now, I did it against you guys for the longest time when we were, a little bit not as advanced as we are now. And my rationalization at the time, since I was the only one doing all these speed ups, was it keeps working. Why wouldn't I keep doing it? Right. Well, now I don't do it as much, and that probably is coinciding with the fact that we're all getting better because it's not working anymore, and I can just feel it. Like this shot's not there. In the past, that same shot would have been there, and I would have done it. Now I'm content to dink and maybe throw up a kitchen lob or some misdirection type angle shot. I don't speed up as much, but speed ups are still a big part of the game. And I almost hesitate to talk about this without talking about the Lewy rule, but I think we're going to talk about the Lewy rule in a future episode. So it's interesting that we're talking about this now, though, because Stolp is making his comeback. And we were talking about this yesterday. I hope you don't mind me talking about this. But so Stolp is going at me every time we're playing because he's trying to get that hand speed back, which is a good strategy. But I was telling him yesterday, some of these balls you just don't want to speed up because I'm ready for it. You're not in position to do that. I'm set up. That ball is not super attackable. And if I'm doing my job and I'm covering the line, like my only concern is a speed up. If you dink it, I'll adjust. If you speed it up to me, though, that's my only concern. I'm only here to make sure that you can't be successful with your speed up on me. All speed ups should be straight ahead. So if Stolp is right across from me, like that's all I'm worried about. I'm only concerned about the speed up. So I'm ready. Like that's my only job. He could dink it to me. He could dink it cross court. And there's plenty of time to adjust to those shots if he decides to do that. But if it's a speed up, I mean, that's my main concern. So if you speed it up, it should be straight ahead. And it should be on a ball that is attackable. I think you should try to disguise that the best you can. So don't show your hand too much. Don't speed up on every single shot so that they don't assume that you're going to speed up. And these are some of the things that I'm doing nowadays. I used to speed up just all the time because a speed up is done to initiate a knife fight. It's not done to win the point outright. It's done to initiate a knife fight and initiate some chaos. And I might still do that if nothing else is working. Like I can always go to a chaos situation and induce some speed ups and, let's get this going. And sometimes I will do that if I don't feel like the opponent has very fast hands. I think that's a good strategy against people that aren't good at defending speed ups. But once you get to a certain level, like I said, most people have fast hands. So you've really got to pick and choose your spots, and you should mix it up so that it's not so predictable. So I guess that's my first.
That was awesome, bro. And yeah, I do think you have absolutely evolved from what I just came up with in my head as I'm going to call a kitchen banger. Because generally when you talk about bangers, it's from the baseline. Guys who won't drop, they won't come in, they just want to hit hard every time. You were always tactical in what you did, but it was kitchen banging because you knew you could speed up at us and our counters or our blocks would be poor, and then you'd put the next one away. And you did that to us for like a year, it felt like. And only recently have you made that switch. And since the PPA, what was that, 2 months ago? 3 months ago?
Well, it was the PPA, and it was also you, Ian. What's your biggest strength?
Your
counter.
Yep.
There was a Duper League match last season with me and Jesse versus you and Lewy, and I had it in my mind, Louis a 5.2 something. Well, let's try to go at Ian. And so I felt like I was really on my game that day, and I was cracking speed ups, like hitting them really good. And you won most of those exchanges, and I was so deflated. I'm like, I don't understand. I played so well, and we lost, and I lost a lot of those exchanges. That was pretty eye opening for me, and I haven't really gone back to that well since. I mean, at least against you, certainly. And
I think you've been better for it. I think you've been slightly more successful, too.
I think it's an important lesson to learn. Speed ups don't work against the best players if they're not done well or smartly. So,
yeah. Jesse Stolp, anything you wanted to add on after hearing Tim roll there? That was great.
Yeah, I'll put in my 2 cents. I don't play 5-0. I'm not a 5-0, so I can't speak to that. But I do watch the pros occasionally, and they do speed up. But I think they put a lot of thought into where they speed up, and I'd like to speak about that for a moment, because that's something I've thought about a lot. So where are you supposed to speed up? What is the standard advice?
I say like chicken wing in
In
right
front
side.
of- yeah.
Yeah.
So standard advice, if you go watch some video on YouTube, they'll say you go to the dominant side shoulder or the dominant side hip. And what you're hoping is, like, most people are sitting backhand like this, and you're hoping for this kind of chicken wing awkward position, which some people can get. Like Ian, you're pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are going to pop that up or not have a great shot. And I don't believe in dogma. I don't believe in just always following the standard advice. So I'm going to share my own views on this, which differ from the conventional wisdom. And I have found, and I'm speaking about the 4-5 level, I guess the 4-0 level as well, that there are two types of players. Some of them are backhand biased. They love their backhand. They're sitting there with their backhand, and if you go to their shoulder, they're going to hit that with the backhand. And if that's the case, then yes, go to the dominant shoulder. It's an excellent shot. But many players, I would say in our group, maybe 1 out of 4, if not 1 out of 3, are what I call forehand biased. And they may be sitting there like this, but if that ball comes to their dominant side shoulder, so in my case, my right shoulder, which is this one, we're just going to fade a little bit and then pat with the forehand. And it's not hard to do. And you can do the same thing with the hip. It's not hard to do if you have that forehand bias, if your neurons just automatically fire for you to move to the left, fade a little bit to the left. And your shoulder shots are not going to work against that player. You want to go elsewhere. So it could be straight to the body, it could be to the left shoulder, and it could be to the left wing. But you
Keep
want
them on that backhand side. Yeah.
You want to keep the ball away from their forehand. And I feel like this is one of the most important progressions in my game over the last few months, is this realization. And so you want to figure out within the first few points if your opponent is forehand biased or backhand biased. And one way you can do that is by hitting to that shoulder and see, do they take it with their backhand? Do they take it with their forehand? Then you know.
Man, that's just
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll jump in from a different perspective. Out of this group of 4 bros, am by far the most speeder upper of this crew, and sometimes unwisely. I'm an alpha, and I make dumb alpha mistakes. I attack when you shouldn't attack. Sometimes I'll go to the person's forehand non-chicken wing just to challenge them, and it's silly. It's at a higher level, 4-5 plus, you're going to get beat. I've gone at Tim this entire week, and I've had 0% success rate, exactly 0%. You said, I don't think you beat me too much. I beat you 0 times. And still in my blockhead brain, that doesn't translate to I shouldn't stop doing it, when in reality, I should make smarter shots. Here's why I do it. And maybe this resonates with other alphas out there, but do know that as you play players that are 5-0 plus, it's not going to work every time. So you gotta pick your choices wisely. I will do it to elicit offense. I'm an offensive player. I want to be in the chaos. I want to be in those knife fights. And even if you don't give the perfect speed up to a Tim or whatever, if done at the right time, he may get it back, but you will be on offense rather than being in a dink battle or on defense. And so I will do that a lot of times just to speed the game up so that I can use my strength on offense. Doesn't always work, and that's the problem of being a blockhead alpha. The other time I will do it is with no intention of trying to hit the ball in the court. Sounds so stupid. It's counterintuitive. But again, if you have an opponent that has a slower speed of hand skill set, and I see this available close to me, and especially if I can reach into the kitchen on a higher dink in front of me, I'm going to go at your chest. Now, the only way to to beat that is to get out of the way. Some people have the body awareness and hand-eye coordination to actually see the ball move and get out of the way and watch it sail out. But I would say more than 50% don't. So with my speed ups, I'm going to do it at a time where it doesn't seem like you should be speeding it up, which is true, but go after that chest and chest area and body bag. So that's
Stolp, have you tried that shot recently against Ian?
I haven't played against Ian enough to say. I
We
will
played
say
one time since you came against each other since you
yeah.
came back.
Since coming back though, Jesse, I have used that technique against many of the opponents and it's worked with success. But you have to time it correctly. This isn't an everything thing. This is you got to know who's in front of you and when to do it. But darn the tennis protocols and etiquette of the game. I go after bodies. It rightfully in the right
I
area.
love the body shot. It can work great. But try it against Ian, and you will see it's just not going to work. It doesn't matter how fast you hit that. He doesn't get out of the way. He's going to just counter it right back at you.
Yeah.
Twice as fast.
Half
And
my counters are hitting out balls. Yeah.
that's what Tim discovered in that game. And I will never speed up to Ian's body if I can help it, because
Stolp, we were actually talking. I appreciate the kind words, Jess. But Stolp, we were talking about this in Marco Polo yesterday when you mentioned us. You're like, guys, I challenged Tim over and over again, and it didn't work. And I think that there can be so much said to not abandoning the speed up, but being smarter about it, right? Like setting it up and kind of when to do it, which you discussed a little bit. But Tim, I want you to speak to that. Like, even though there's been like the old version of you always speeding up, and now you're much more calculated, much more chess player, which I've told Stolp he needs to begin to adopt. Don't abandon it. Be calculated about it. When do you do it, Tim? Since you've backed off of it, but it's still not gone. Like, what are your triggers to know this is the moment?
I don't know. I wish I had a better answer, but it really does feel like, I mean, I feel like for me, if I'm playing the right way, I am really in the moment, and I'm kind of being an artist up there, and I'm kind of looking at all my options. I'm trying things. I'm aware of what my opponents are doing, their body language up there. Do I sense that they are vulnerable to a speed up at that moment? You just have to be aware of these things in real time, I think, so that you can make the best shot selection in the moment. I wouldn't say there's a hard, fast rule for when to do it and when not to do it. Like I was trying to say before, like I think there are situations where it makes sense to do it more than others if those players are more susceptible to it.
I do think there is a hard, fast rule of when you should not do it. I think when you're off balance, when you're separated from your partner, right? Like maybe they've been pulled wide, or you're in a scramble, or you're on defense. I think just hard and fast, do not speed it up. Like, would you guys agree with that? Or, because I know, Tim, you do it. When you get pulled wide sometimes, it's not quite ATP-able, you'll take your two-handed backhand, and you'll come straight down and try and thread that middle. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if I like that shot as your partner. And in a moment, we're going to talk about the beta perspective of this. But would you agree that there is a hard no on that?
Would I agree?
Or any of you? Like,
Well, no, I agree that I definitely am guilty of that, because I guess I'm pulled out way wide. I feel like I'm on the defensive, and I have to make something happen in that moment, and that's probably a weakness of mine, because I usually go for that. And like, especially when I'm playing against Lewy, he's like, oh, he's going up the middle, I got this. And in that moment, we're going to talk about the your partner's responsibility in that. Like, I hope you're covering the middle, because I'm going for this, because that's going to be wide open. He's covering the middle. You have to cover the middle too. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. And I'm like, it's so deflating.
Yeah.
But
well,
it's probably
go
not
ahead,
a smart
Stolp.
shot anyways.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I don't know a hard fast when you shouldn't do it, because my brain doesn't work like that. But I know when I should do it, and one of the cues that I look for. So when you're in a dink battle and your opponents are moving synchronously back and forth as they should on a dink battle, so it's going cross court, they're moving over. Well, there'll be times when that opponent in front of me in that cross court is standing firm. He's not moving his feet. so he's not moving with his partner. If he has cement feet, I look for that ball that pops up on a dink, hit it right in front of him at his chest, because if he's not moving his feet now, he's not ready to move his feet if I'm coming at his body. So that's a time that I wait for a speed up, looking at footwork, looking at technique, and watching partners and how they operate in tandem or together, and how they're moving back and forth. And if one's not moving the same as the other, I'm coming at you.
I think you're right. The partner spacing is such an important aspect of this conversation, because even if you're the best speeder upper in the world, like Tim, like say 8 months ago when all of us were still, more or less lower 4-5, Tim would just abuse us with it. Even if he was on an island, it would work, right? Like if you're separated from your partner, your partner's not adhering to the Lewy rule, which we'll elaborate on here in a moment, I think is a good time to talk about it. But once you get to higher level and you speed up and you've got your wings, your passing lanes are open, then it's a bad idea. So definitely pay attention to the spacing. And I think that's why, as a beta player, which Jesse and I definitely lean towards, I don't think betas should really ever be initiating speed ups unless it's like a dead ball, high bounce, came off a block or something like. But then those are more classified as putaways than initiations, I would think. But a beta really has to prepare for their alpha to speed up, know where the alpha will speed up, what kind of shots they do it on. If I know that Tim gets a dead ball to his forehand, let's say I'm playing right side, Tim, you're playing left. If there's a dead ball in the right in the center there, it's no crazy angles, no spin, just kind of right on that kitchen line, and I see you step back, I'm completely poised for us. We're getting in a knife fight there, right? You're going to either straight at their body, or you're going to find that middle, or you're going to and you have so many options from there. Like, let's not get it twisted, listeners. Just because Tim is stepping away from the speed up doesn't mean it's not excellent. Like, I think you have some of the best speed ups here in town. But I have to be cognitively aware of where you are, how you're going to do it, pre-predict. Like, if you speed it up to your side, like kind of a bit of a cross-court, straight ahead of you attack, that's your responsibility. But if you have any angle off of center toward my side of the court, I've got to be prepared for that. I've got to know what opportunities you are seeking out. Because as a beta, by the way, I'm not just recognizing what you're going to do. I'm trying to create those opportunities, right? As a beta, I know what Stolp wants to attack. And he and I actually, I know he's ramping up. I've played against him once, and we've played together twice in the last 2 weeks you've been back, which I want to increase that, Stolp. Like, I missed you, man. But you and I, even when we came back, you turned to me, you're just like, you're so good at setting me up. Mm-hmm. Just I know exactly what you're looking for. And I hit the balls to the spot that I know you're seeking. And so as a beta, and I'll let Jesse chime in now on the beta perspective of speed up, because I'm just accidentally rolling here. But I think it's really important to understand it's your alpha's job to do this thing, right? It's your alpha's job to speed up. He has to attack, because you're not going to be the one doing it. And yeah, you want him to be smart, right? You don't want him to speed up everything like Stolp does, but both of you are working and creating moments, creating patterns that incite moments of chaos, incite winning opportunities. So Jess, I just want to roll there. Do you have anything to add, sort of? And then after Jess goes, Tim, I want you to explain the Lewy rule, because that will be very important for this. But
yeah, I agree with you. I think the beta's job is to elicit pop-ups for the alpha. And if I have a shot, let's say I could speed up, like there's a dead dink to me, and I think, I could speed this up. I have like a 60% chance of winning the point. Should I take that shot, or should I do like instead an aggressive dink and elicit a pop-up where my partner is going to, if my partner is like Tim or Stolp, is going to have a 70 or an 80% chance of winning that point. I should just defer the opportunity to speed up, and that's how I play. I don't speed up that much.
100%. Tim, as we're talking about being in tandem, moving with people, can you please, we dub it the Lewy rule. Some players might just call it common sense, but let's get it out there in the pickleball nomenclature.
Yeah, so the Lewy rule, named after the guy that's jumping right in front of me over there with his gut hanging out a little bit, Louis. Hope you listened to that health episode last week. we named it after Lewy because this was the way that my partners, or me and my partner, would have to defend Lewy in matches, because he was consistently getting the better of us in these exchanges where he would drive it at us. And then we didn't really know who was responsible for what area of the court. And so we devised this way to think about it that is all about trust in your partner. Like, you both have your responsibilities, and you have to stick to that no matter what. And then it just makes everything so much easier. And it's a way to manage some of those situations where you're being challenged and you're on the defensive. So the Lewy rule is, if the ball is on your side of the court, on the opposite side of the net, you are responsible for the line no matter what. So you will not get beat up the line. That means your partner is responsible for all cross-court shots, period. End of story. You are not going to be this alpha-minded dude. Well, I can get that ball, so I'm going to reach over and get that middle ball too. No. That's going to screw everything up, and you'll find that you'll see a bunch of balls passing you on your right or your left, that line shot, because you're not staying disciplined. So it's the same thing in a speed up. I was just talking about how if Stolp's in front of me, my only concern is that line. I don't care where he goes with this. If he goes cross court, I'm just going to trust that my partner is going to get that ball. So the Lewy rule applies at the kitchen line against guys that are at the kitchen across from you every bit as much as it does if they're at the baseline. So you keep that integrity, and you're responsible for the line. If the ball's on your side of the court across the net, then you really can't go wrong. Like, you might miss a shot here and there. That's fine, but it's not going to be because of confusion. It's going to be because, you
got beat.
That was too good. Too good. It's not
Yeah.
because I misread the situation. It's not because I made a tactical error. It's because I got beat. And you can hang your head high if that's the situation, because at least that you weren't being stupid about it.
Yeah, and like you said, we called it the Lewy rule because Lewy would pass people down the alley all the time. We would be sitting too middle bias, and he'd find your weak side on both sides of the court, and we were all just getting sick of it. We're like, defend the line. It doesn't matter. And I just want to be extra clear, Tim, because I thought you laid it out great, but there's sort of three zones of the court. There's your alley side, there's middle, and then there's partner's alley side. And sometimes where those lines, merge and meld can be tricky. So if there's a ball in the middle of the court, you guys don't really have to worry about your alleys. But if you're cross-court dinking, or anything is maybe pulled center of your body, alley side, depending on where you are, that is your cue to say, I have to lock down this alley. I have to be disciplined. And that's when your partner needs to come and pinch you, knowing that you're not going to do a crazy reach out to the middle because you're going to be paddle hitting. It's like you have your assignments, right? Like so much in football and basketball and hockey, you have your dedicated assignment. In those particular moments, based on the ball's location, you have to be disciplined. And the Lewy rule, as you mentioned, it applies kitchen, it applies baseline, it applies in soft play, in speed ups, in dink match, like it is a full encompassing mindset that everyone should adopt across basically all moments of the game. And that is how you move in tandem. But the reason it's important for speed ups is when it comes to both offense and defense. So defensively, it's important because they can't speed up at you in the gaps. If you're being disciplined and you're holding your line and your partner holds that middle, they have to come at you or come through you. And maybe they do. Maybe they hit it fast enough. Maybe it clips the net and goes over. Maybe you whiff it. Maybe you hit it, you block it a little high, then they put the next one away. There's a million different scenarios that can happen. But make them beat you. Don't just give them a free alley. And if they want to take that weak backside on the far side across from them, almost certainly they're not going to be attacking it. Maybe they can get an aggressive dink, but then you go and chase it down for an ATP. So that's the defensive mindset. And the offensively, it's the same thing, but from a counter situation. If I know the ball is dead in the middle on Tim's forehand and Tim's on the left, I'm going to hold the line because more likely than not, you're probably speeding up straight ahead or in front of me from that position. So I know the ball is probably right. Like it always ends up either coming back at the exact same trajectory you send it or with a slight angle. It almost never goes back. So I know if you speed it up in front of me, it's probably coming back at me. So just sit there, let you hold the middle, let me hold. And so it holds for counters as well, which counters can be defensive. But that's an offensive situation. You are attacking. So I hope people understand that we may do a full breakdown with Jesse's masterful artistic drawings and moving people around. But it's a really important thing to hone in on across all aspects of the game, especially speed ups. Anything to add, guys?
I think when these plays start to happen in real time, and what Ian and Tim just described, like you may not be thinking X's and O's like that in those moments. I think mid-game, mid-point communication is not a bad thing. Tim did it to me the other day. You got the line. Okay, like in the middle of the play, like when we were playing together. Okay, great. And then I covered the line. Like you don't have to overthink what's happening. Although there's a lot of nuances going on, it is some common sense involved. And so we put X's and O's and diagrams, and we dubbed it the Lewy rule and when and how to do it and all these different pieces. But mid-game communication from your partner is just, oh yeah, that's what I got to make sure to do that. And Tim and others communicate mid-point so well, and it's just a simple cue to like that. Hey, you've got the line. Oh yeah, okay, great. And it's a half step over or whatever. So. And
after you talk about it enough, like we do, because we're pickleball obsessed, we the four of us talk to each other every day, multiple times a day, and sometimes it's more than multiple. Sometimes it's literally nonstop all day long. Like it's actually bad. Our wives hate each of us separately.
We talk during haircuts too.
Yeah, my wife was giving me a haircut yesterday. I'm chatting with these guys on Marco Polo, and we've got a problem, guys. We like each other too much. But I will say, you made me laugh. I was laughing too hard about the haircut thing. You end up talking about it so much. You end up thinking about it so much that it becomes an unconscious process on the court. For me, I don't have to think about the Lewy rule anymore. I have to know the ball is there. His most likely opportunity is down the line. His second most likely opportunity is at my body. His third most winningest likely opportunity is to go behind me. Tim's got the middle. Okay, all of my brain has deployed 100% of my bandwidth to a 50-50 split. I'm focused on the alley, and I'm focused on my body. I don't have to worry about anything my weak side shoulder or behind because I trust that Tim is there. And by the way, it depends on what, like, let's say I'm playing with my wife. I can't afford to think that way. I have to think maximum court coverage too. But when it's Tim, I know what he's good at, and my opponents generally will know what he's good at. So if they go to my weak side shoulder, I'm like, thank you. That's right into what Tim does well. Because where I'm backhand bias, Tim is forehand bias. Although you do both at a high level, what would you, real quick, Tim? Do you think you're forehand or backhand bias?
I don't think I'm either, really. I love my backhand.
You're gonna put away that forehand in the middle.
Yeah,
it's probably gonna get put away. So
I'd say my forehand's more consistent.
Sure. It slows the game down mentally for you when you have these set rules in place. You don't have to think these things through. And eventually, Stolp, you're coming back, you're trying to ramp, you're trying to do everything at once, right? Like you're like, I got to get ready for November. I have to challenge people on speed ups. I have to do a drop and a drive in the same paddle touch because like you're that greedy. You're texting all of us. You're like, guys, I need play sessions, right? But eventually, all of it will slow down in your brain. You can set Lewy rules. You can understand how these things need to be played out to where it just becomes natural. And that, my friends, is how you get good at pickleball. So,
Wow.
I can't wait to get good. Oh boy.
Yeah, one day you'll get there, Stolp, and I'll teach you how to hit a lob sometime.
Oh, okay, all right.
You've got the serve down. We saw that earlier in this episode. The serve is good. But all right, any closing thoughts, guys? We got to wrap. Nothing. Awesome.
Nope.
Listeners,
We'll talk more about the Lewy rule later.
Yes, we will go,
including how do you divvy up responsibilities when the ball's in the middle of the court.
court
That's
position
an
is
interesting
one of the
conversation.
things we talk about the most. But thank
Yeah.
you for tuning in, guys, for this episode of the PickleBros podcast. This upcoming Sunday, we're going to have a special live episode of our men's team draft. Tune in, turn on the little notification thing that says when we go live. We've never done it before, so live TV. We'll see how it happens. But thank you guys for tuning in. We love you all. Stay safe and stay out of the kitchen.